On this episode of Brokers Open Podcast, we're going to talk about healthy, the market, not so much the people. Number two, if you want something you've never had, you got to do things that you've never done before. And number three, we're going to tackle branding all in this episode of Brokers Open Podcast. Let's get started. Justin, there he is, the man, the myth. What are you doing? How are you? Podcast Friday, right?
Podcast Friday, really psyched about it. I'm psyched that it's also raining today. We always start by talking about the weather.
I know. It's
Or
like
maybe
we're
I
90
did.
years. It's like we're 90 years old.
My
Justin has
front
the
yard.
weather. That's right.
Is it raining by you right now?
No, not yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I saw the
It's
weather.
it's on its way because it just got done monsooning here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the weather's been a little bit crazy. The humidity has been ridiculous. It's been humid as hell. It's just absolutely horrible. I don't mind the
Wearing
rain.
a short sleeve.
Yep, I don't mind the rain and it dropping on us and everything. But man, you got to walk outside. You got to walk. If you're taking bogey out or whatever it is that you're doing, man, you walk outside
Yeah,
and it's just stifling. You can't breathe.
I know.
So we've got a lot going on, right? So we're still, there's still pandemic-y. We're in Florida, so there's still stuff going on with all of that, right? So our numbers are boosting because more testing's going on and all that type of thing. But the big picture is real estate's still moving, man.
Honestly, in my 10-year career in real estate, I have never seen anything like this. In terms of this last month, or even really since probably the end of March. I mean, the market is so hot right now. It's insane. All price points too. It's not like it's just like the median range, like the luxury market's just flying right now too.
Right. So I looked the stats up, right? I knew I was going to be talking to you, so I had to pay attention to my numbers, right? So
You sent it to me last night. I know you're studying.
Yeah. So May, right? So May was not a great closing month, comparatively speaking, but a pending month. It's been one of the best historical pending months ever in real estate.
Yeah.
And it was up from what it was year over year. Now that was probably pent-up demand, right? So we had March and April that people weren't sure, and so all of a sudden in May, everybody kind of steps off the cliff. But it was a huge actual pending month, right? So
Yeah.
And what you said, it's across all pieces of the market. It's just not like it's one part of the market. So
what's interesting on that too, and this is probably pretty obvious to everyone who's listening, but I for a long time used to see a lot of cash deals go through, right? Mm-hmm. I bet you when we look back at the statistics throughout these couple months, we're going to see that the cash deals are way down.
I bet.
I haven't seen the market stats on it, but mortgage rates are insanely low. Will and I just heard about somebody who locked in a 15-year fixed for 2.2%, Matt.
Wow. So I just
2.2.
I just refinanced, and I did it.
I'm going to do the same.
2.875. I couldn't believe it.
It's free money.
I never thought that I'd have an interest rate below, and we've been wrestling with this for 30 days or something like that, right? Because there's people not working and all that kind of stuff, and the rates are even lower since I locked in on that, which I asked them about, and they said no, we can't do it. So that's a whole different story.
No, that's great. I mean, at 2.875, I mean that's a home run.
Yeah, no doubt. And so so let's talk for just a second. Let's dig into something that the market's moving, right? And so I don't want to beat a dead horse. And you and I kind of talked, and we agreed that we wouldn't beat a dead horse in this, but this is an opportunity for people to look at their business differently, right? You're getting kind of a free pass to be able to do something different than what you've done in the past, if that's how you look at it. Right?
Yeah.
There's some people that are still bunkered down. There's still people hiding under the rock and all that kind of stuff and everything. And then there's other people that are connected with their sphere that are out there doing things, getting stuff done. Right?
Yeah.
So according to the NAR study that came out, that we looked at, 50% of people thought that the market was coming back, right? Which I thought was a really cool stat, because that was the headline. Well, what does that mean? The other 50% think. The other 50% think it's not coming back, right? So we're right there on the edge, which I think is hilarious. Right. But you and I talked about how important it was for people to take advantage of this. We talked early on about opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Versus obstacle. And so I know you've done a great job on this lately and everything, and you've always done a great job on it, but lately you had the chance to do it. roll up your sleeves and dig in more. This is a chance for people, if they wanted to reinvent themselves, they can reinvent themselves now.
Sure,
They
sure.
can put their culture on display differently than they have in the past. They can leverage technology and everything. So we thought this would be a good time for us, right, to talk about how to get your message out with branding, right?
Yeah,
How to this might be a good chance to launch something to get in front of people, right? And so I know you've done a bunch of that, right? Always, you've done a very good
yeah.
job on it, and you've got a great presence on Instagram and everything. Got a great presence on social media in general, great presence in the market that you're in. How do you do it? What is it? If I don't want you to say just the one key thing. Let's talk a little bit about it. But where do we start on this? If somebody wants a good brand, what do they do?
So I think it's an interesting time for a lot of people to get into social media marketing and really beyond that. But I think when you really dumb that down, right now is the biggest opportunity for you to really showcase who you are as, a person. Your personality can really shine.
Right.
But in order for your personality to shine, you got to be able to get out of your comfort zone. So I think the biggest barrier to getting on social media and doing a really, really good job is just letting go of the fear. Fear can just
Yep.
cripple people.
Yep.
And, I know personally, I know that you went through it back when you first started, that insecurity is there where,
Oh yeah.
you're really unsure as how the message is going to be taken, what type of critical feedback might there be.
Yep.
Once you just have the attitude of like, screw it, this is who I am and this is what we're
Yep.
going to do. I mean, I'm just talking personally. That's what's helped.
Yeah.
It's like, we have these really creative ideas that we're drumming up in the office about what we want to do with the social media, where we want to take it to. And quite honestly, it's never been done before, the stuff that we're starting, because people were scared to do it. And what I was thinking about this morning, we just did a shoot yesterday where we took one of our office desks and we
Uh-huh.
brought it around town with our photography and our media team. And we sat it in front of places around our town that people would recognize, right? And
Yep.
what that visualization does is, yeah, I work here, I live here. This is my turf, right?
Right.
So we put the desk there
That's so
in front
cool.
of really memorable spots. I mean, we quite literally put it in the middle of the street, and we're
Right.
taking pictures.
Right.
But there's going to be naysayers on that. You know what I say to those naysayers? Those naysayers probably think it's stupid. They think it's corny, whatever it might be. But you know what? Those types of people don't have the fortitude to try it. So I think that whenever you get criticism from somebody or you're worried about criticism from somebody, it comes from an insecurity. And so
Completely agree.
I want you just to, people out there to jump in head first and then learn how to swim later. Nobody's going to be perfect at it. You and I are still learning how to do this.
Absolutely, every day. Yep.
But it's fun. And really, I think that the best part is that fun part, because when you're doing these activities, you're really enjoying what you're doing,
Yep.
and there's not many parts throughout your day where you're either, negotiating, or you're doing contracts, or you're doing other things where you can truly have fun. And
Right.
so that's my long-winded answer.
No, that's perfect. What's more fun than being you, right? Being able
Mhm.
to let your hair down and be you. So everything that you look up on branding, anytime you talk about how to get your culture out there on social media and everything, one of the first things it says is exactly the first thing that you said. Understand who you are.
Right.
You have to know who you are. And then the second thing you said, it, you hit the nail on the head again, was understanding your audience. Who cares if
Yeah.
they don't think it's a good idea for you to have the desk in the middle of the road, right? Screw them. That's not the one you're trying to do business with anyway. Don't you want to
Right.
do business with people like you, right? You want
Right.
people that appreciate that think that's cool, because that's going to make your job just that much more enjoyable. And who are they going to refer? People like them, which
Right.
means you get to deal with more people like who you wanted to deal with. That's when you start enjoying your job that much more. That's so cool and so spot on.
What's interesting about it too is I've noticed that even just by doing simple stuff like that, by doing shoots like that, or we're doing a little bit of creative spin in terms of all the marketing towards our listings, is that when you're having fun doing those items, that carries over into everything else: your personal life, your office culture,
Yep.
your partnerships within the office, your clients feel the enthusiasm. So once you start really living the way that you want to live in terms of your business plan, it really unfolds. And that has really been a breakthrough for me, truthfully, in the last month, where I'm just like, you know, and the follow through on it's really, really neat, because there is a whole bunch of steam that just comes with that.
Right. Yeah. I can't even imagine how excited you are about all of this, because I know this was all stuff that you wanted to put in place, and you're getting the chance to do it. I think that's so killer. And so,
Yeah.
and the other thing is, it slows down that fear that you were talking about too, right? Eliminate that fear, eliminate the worry about doing it, and just say, you know what, this is who I am. This is who I think I need to be. And I hope that's what's going to work for you. So, one of the things that you and I have talked about a couple of times in the past, and I think it's probably important to bring up now, is who you're advertising needs to be who shows up too, though, right? So you have to be not just authentic to yourself, pick the parts of you that you really want to put on display, but make sure it's the parts of you that is consistently you, not just who you want to. And I think a lot of people make that mistake in branding. They're like, I want everybody to see me this way. And so they throw that out there. And then that's not what ends up showing up at the front door. And so
that's the worst thing.
Yeah.
I get so tired of seeing that on social media. It just, maybe it drives me crazy, but it also drives home the people who are truly authentic, because it's like, wear your heart on your sleeve. But the people who fake it and just try to do that, everyone can see through it. Like, you can see it on there. You're not, you're not fooling anybody.
Completely. I saw something on Facebook the other day. Somebody was bragging about something, standing in front of a car that wasn't their car, and if it was their car, it is not the car that should be in the. I mean, I'm like, really?
I saw the same thing. I saw
like,
a realtor that I know, and she's got a really big following in the area, and she's taking photos out back of this property, this waterfront property, that she didn't sell. B, she has nothing to do with, and she was just there just because, but she decided to take a real estate photo shoot, and then in that take credit for it. I'm like, well, that is kind of silly.
And people know. There's enough people in the community that know that didn't happen, and somebody's going to speak up, and all that's going to do is expose her, right? She's afraid to stand in the yard of her own listings that she sold. You follow me?
Right.
You can't be afraid of that. You gotta, whatever it is that you stand for, you gotta get up there and stand for it. What's up,
Totally
Sid?
agree. Sid.
So, so one of the things I just looked up at my whiteboard, because there was a few things that I wanted to make sure that we hit today. One of the big things that I thought was really critical as we were looking through this information was the number of people that were actually using social media for advertising in their business. Okay, 76% of women and 73% of men are using it. Now, here's why that's important in my opinion. The average age is still 56. Okay, so what that means is that most of the people that the average age are using social media to do their advertising. Yeah. So when you're getting your brand out, and I know that you're good at this, but I think this is worth us saying out. I think this is worth us saying out loud. If I go to a postcard company and I ask the postcard company to help me get my brand out in front of everybody, are they going to say, hey, I really think you should only send 150 postcards out and you should really target your people? Or are they going to say, no, you need to send 12,000 out every other week?
Right.
Most of the time, they're going to go with what is a combination of a good business decision with them, with a combination of what's a good business decision with you. If you found the right sales rep, if you did not find the sales rep, they're going to go with a really good business decision for them.
That's the truth.
So the same thing is so true with social media. Don't just think that because you've hired somebody to do your social media that they're looking out for you, that they're putting your brand out there the way that they need to put your brand out there. Don't just think because you hired a videographer that they know what they're doing and that they're doing the stuff that they need to that's going to look good online. It's not, all the shit is not the same. You got to find something that is going to, that somebody is really looking out for you, especially when 76% of people are using online media to push their brand out there. 73% of males, 76% of females. And so we want to make sure that we're pushing the right message out there to the right people, to the right way. So guys out there in podcast land, you got to roll your sleeves up and understand, dig in, understand the importance of content, understand content. We're in a culture of content convenience, right? So people are absorbing what they want to absorb. People are absorbing it when they want to absorb it and how much of they want to absorb it. If you are not entertaining, guess what they're not going to do?
Right.
They're not going to tune in.
Yeah. And if you're not authentic, they're not going to tune in either. And that would be my first advice is like, if you're not going to be authentic from the start, don't even start. But what I notice a lot of people falling into the trap of is like, I'm scared to get into social media. What's the best thing I can do? I'm going to hire somebody that can help me with my social media accounts. They're going to take it off my plate. Breath of fresh air.
Right.
Wrong. The expectation is wrong there. What you really need to understand is that if you're going to do this and do this at a high level, just like anything else in your life, if you're going to, work out and you want, specific goals in the gym, that doesn't just come by like, oh, okay, I got a trainer, right? That's the way you got to look at it. It's like, okay, just because you hired a trainer doesn't mean that you're going to meet your goals. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it, right? There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of edits. There's a lot of redoing. So understand that, when you go into a social media platform and you actually hire somebody, think of that as, you hiring a trainer at the gym. You still got to put in the work.
Agreed.
However, they're going to help you get to your goals.
Great point. Yeah. And they have to see you on a regular basis, so not that you can't get an app to work out, right? But your trainer needs to see you. Okay. They need to be connected with you. They need to know what's going on. It's not a one size fits all by any stretch of the imagination. That's simply not. You can get an app and work out, right? And it's going to help you. It's going to benefit you. But as soon as you start to get hyper focused, as soon as you want a certain type of growth, you better have the right help or guess what? Somebody that's got eyes on, or guess what? It ain't gonna work.
Well, that's why, we made the commitment. Will and I also made the commitment where, we brought on relatively part-time / full-time, a full-time media consultant where, they're here helping us with shoots, videography, still shoots, everything that we could possibly do and helping with the social media bit. But, going back to it, it still is a lot of work on our end. And what we're doing is you're building a brand. And people got to understand that when you're doing your social media, keep at it. You're not going to build a brand overnight. Like Rome wasn't built in a day. It's the same thing for social media.
Right.
You just got to take your lickings. It will build, especially if you're authentic. But it's going to take time. And anything worth having takes time.
Absolutely. And so that reminds me, so you and I spoke at that event, a few months ago or whatever, and that lady Lacey, right, was there, and she talked, and she stood up and she made a joke about some of what people did. She said, I've talked to people in some of my classes that I've taught, and she said, and they said, oh yeah, I tried social media for a few months and it didn't work. Right. And her advice was super advice. Pick one, roll your freaking sleeves up, and dig into that one for a year before you make a decision of whatever you want to do with it. I thought that was such great advice, right? Both of our hands were burning up from taking notes on that, right? Because she just had a very good grip on that big picture. But that was probably one of the key things, and that dovetails exactly into what you just said. Dig in, be authentic about it, and stick to it. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
The same way that you're going to schedule your day, a realtor's day with prospecting, whatever data entry type of work you might have to have, showing type of work, schedule in that social media time. Because I look at you doing that as the same way as, you doing other types of marketing bits. Like you mentioned postcards earlier. I think that social media is the new direction over postcards. Do I think that, postcard mailing should stop, or you're ridiculous for doing them? No, I know tons of successful people that do social media, sorry, not social media, that do postcards. However, you gotta set time aside. At least I'm speaking for myself. If it's not on my schedule, it ain't gonna happen. So schedule it every day.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Absolutely. And you can follow all the rules and you can get all the content and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately it boils down to you pouring yourself literally into that. If 76% and 73% are going to be doing it, averaging 74.25% or whatever it is, if that many people are going to be doing that, it needs to be something, one, that is authentically you.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And don't be
Yeah.
afraid to do it. So can we change gears on something real quick and talk about for sale
Yeah.
by owners for just a second? Because
Let's
I
do it.
think that's gonna be another factor of the market, right? So you and I both know that for sale by owners are going to be more and more important in what's happening going forward. So we both know the stat because we brought it up a bunch of times. NAR does the survey every year. 2019 said that 11%, the National Association of Realtors profile of buyers and sellers, right, came out and it said, 11% of owners sold by themselves, right? And we're not going to get into the part with how much less it sold for when they sold it themselves. But this is an important factor of that, okay? And this kind of grabbed my attention because of what we're going into and the probability that this is going to be more prevalent in the market over the next year or two at least.
Right.
So 36% of for sale by owners did not advertise the property they sold, according to the survey. So no yard sign, no anything. They did not advertise it. That means they sold it to someone they knew. Right? So they didn't have to advertise. They didn't have to spend the money. So 1/3 of that 11%, which is a big piece of it, sold it to a family member, sold it to a neighbor, sold it to whatever it is. That drops how successful for sale by owners are. That drops it by that much more. If I'm somebody that's prospecting to for sale by owners, I'm going to have that number in my pocket. I'm going to say your opportunity for success in the market overall, if you take out selling it to a family or friend, 1/3 of those opportunities go away. So now you're at, what is that, 8%, 7.5% versus 11%? Your opportunities of being able to sell have dropped dramatically. And then 31% use the yard sign, 20% use the MLS, meaning that they went to some type of friend or partner or whoever it was, and there's some mix of those numbers that actually put it into the MLS for them to get it. But 36% didn't advertise it at all, meaning that's a third of it, over a third of it didn't have anything to do with anything other than selling it to a friend.
Right.
And think how many people right? They were going to list the property and they were like, well, you know what, I'm just going to pass it on to my kids, or I'm just going to.
I'm actually going through it right now.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. And so that's a big part of the market. So and so I don't think that takes into account anything that happens with hedge funds and stuff like that. I think that's just that other part of it. So I think those two are gonna switch off a little bit. So that number's gonna perk, but for a different reason.
I think, to your point, people need to really sharpen up on objection handling when it comes to for sale by owners now more than ever. I think that it was easy for realtors for a long time to kind of ignore that part of the business for their business plan, and be successful in other places. Now's the time to sharpen that knife on that, truly, because you're going to miss opportunities if you don't. I'm staring that right in the face. I'm telling you, I haven't studied objection handling for sale by owner type stuff in a while. I was quick thinking on my feet and was able to be successful with it, but that's not going to be every case. I mean, that was maybe luck of the draw for me personally, but you gotta sharpen up on it, or at least talk to somebody who at your office, you're the broker manager. Talk to your broker manager about it.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that. Yesterday and the day before, I had some stuff come up. So you and I both do coaching, right? We both coach beyond just our agent population. And so I get stuff all the time about real estate coaches, right? So, I'm a huge fan of Tom Ferry, that. I think he's incredible, right? But I get all these other real estate coaches, and this thing popped up on YouTube, and it was this guy that was basically saying, real estate coaches are all BS, right? And he did a good job on the video, but because you and I talk about this, and because we've got a close friend, Ben, that just knows a lot about social media and everything, I understood that his video was curated to send a certain message, right? So as soon as he started telling his origin story that's right. As soon as he started telling his origin about how you don't need a real estate coach and how most of them are frauds and there's only a couple out there that are really good and everything. So one of the things that he held on to was objection handling. He said, if you have a good relationship with people, you don't need objection handlers.
What?
I swear.
Who is this kook?
He said 3 or 4. I'll send you his information. He said
this
3
guy
or
hasn't
4 other
shit.
No, he has.
Pardon my
He's sold.
language.
So listen, he's sold a bunch of business, but when you roll your sleeves up and you go back and look, this was a recruiting video. He was the person that was in charge of a team in a brokerage, and what he was trying to do is basically saying, you don't need a coach, you need to come work for me and I'll teach you how to do it. So in other words, he was literally saying, don't go hire a coach.
Yeah, I got you.
Pay me half your commission and I'll coach you. It's literally what he
Right.
was saying.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was freaking
Yeah. Join
hilarious.
my team.
Right, exactly. You don't need a coach. Just pay me half of your commission instead of paying somebody else. Right. So, so I've watched some of it because I love understanding it. And I agree. Some people don't need a coach. Some people don't,
Right.
if they just do certain things, right. But handling objections is not about tricking someone and being a slick salesperson. Handling
Right.
objections means truly getting to the bottom of what it is that person's trying to accomplish and seeing if you have a solution for that.
Right.
And so what we were talking about, the reason why I brought the for sale by owner thing up, and I figured it would go in this direction of the coaches, was because when it comes to branding, when it comes to you understanding how to deal with for sale by owners, if it comes to find somebody to help you out. Right now is the time to go ahead and figure out somebody that can help you out on specifically some of those things that you want to accomplish. Go get somebody that knows the path that can help you stay on that path so that you can succeed in the business. Because I
1,000%.
promise what we're heading, and you know this because we've talked about this too, we are heading
Yeah.
towards a time when real estate agents' roles are going to shift dramatically.
Yeah.
And if you're not in control of your sphere, the people that aren't busy right now are the ones that have been buying leads for the past, that have been churning through the
Yeah.
leads. You can look at their
Completely.
numbers. They're churning
Yeah.
through the leads, and all of a sudden quality has went down and all. So those guys, they're not starving. Go ahead.
We called that from the beginning though. I remember the very first podcast that we did when COVID hit and we were in lockdown. The very first thing that we said was the value proposition is more glaring now than ever, and it will
Yep.
continue to do so. And Matt, you just hit it spot on. That is it. I mean, if you haven't figured out your value proposition now, shit, get on it, because that's people are learning the hard way, and the people who are actually doing it the right way are so busy and are reaping the rewards. But man, it's just funny how that kind of, I hate to toot our own horn, but man, we
hit it.
definitely called it.
Yep. And listen, we're not going to come out of this, and this is what a lot of people think is going to happen. They think that we're going to come out of this and go back to what it was. That is
Right.
never the way it works. It
No.
will come out of it, and then other people will learn how to do some of what they were doing before, but it will be new compared to what it was before. Grab a hold of the people that you know, take great freaking care of them,
Yep.
and help them with what goes on in real estate, and you'll have a future in this. If they don't, it's about to get tough for some people, which I'm cool with it. I love it.
See, people don't like change, and obviously this change affected the entire world. But the world that we knew pre-COVID and post-COVID, whenever that might be, you don't realize the habits and the habit forming, I don't know what you want to call it, in your brain has already happened to where the world has changed, whether people want to recognize it or not.
Yep.
And so those people that are willing to accept change and roll with change and be comfortable with change are the ones that are actually pushing forward with their business plans and personal life. But the ones who are very rigid and stuck in their ways and think that they've got it figured out, I think they're in the dust right now. And you know what? I don't really feel bad for them.
I don't either. So especially the ones that I've had a connection with, because this isn't the first time that we've been singing off this sheet of music. We've been talking about years. Okay.
Forever.
But yeah, so let's talk biology for just 1 second, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So what you were saying is that their habits are their neuro pathways is what it is. Okay.
Yep.
And so their neuro pathways, they need to build some new neuro pathways right now. The neuro-linguistic programming that has to happen, the new neurons that need to be firing, the new building of gray matter so that you don't do stuff the way that you did before needs to be happening now, so that you allow yourself to do things different going forward, because the pathways that that you had before are not going to work. People need to get their head wrapped around that. Those days are gone. The expectation from the consumer is different. They don't want virtual showings. are not going to go away. They will slow back down, but they're not going to go away. People are comfortable with now. It's been forced to be introduced that it is acceptable, and some people are going to want to continue doing that. And again, not to toot our own horn,
the
but
millennial pool.
We talked about that, right? We talked about how to make the most of all. So going forward, you got to rewire your brain. You got to get some new pathways. You got to let those other pathways get old and dusty and not be as strong as the new pathways. And that's going to allow people to be able to move forward in their business that is a more solid business plan that actually has a future to it, instead of trying to hold on to the way things were, right?
Completely agree.
So we talked about being 90-year-old men at the beginning of this, right? And then we're talking about the weather and everything. 90-year-old men sitting back going, oh, I don't want to change. I love the way things used to be.
Yeah.
Better snap out of it if you want to succeed in real estate.
If you want something you never had, you got to do things you've never done, period.
That's exactly right. Well said. Well said.
Period.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that goes back to that fear thing. Get rid of the fear. Really, good success and true happiness happens on the other side of fear.
Right. So where growth is, out of your comfort zone, everything. So dude, we had another good morning. I always love starting my mornings off like this. This is so fantastic.
I do too.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of really good guests coming up. Okay. So things are clearing up, and we had some other people. We've got some really cool people coming up. So everybody needs to stay tuned out their podcast land. And just and like always, how do they connect with us? How do they find out more?
You gotta like, comment, subscribe. We are all over the interwebs. We're on iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Find us.
Yep. Find us, connect,
Appreciate you guys.
Interact, engage. We love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Peace.